Hello. Hi everyone. Oh, come on. I know there's not many of us in here. Hi everyone. Yeah, thank you. So my name is Andrew Kara. I'm a resilient and mental well-being coach. Thank you for coming. So before we get started with the session, we're going to welcome one of our change makers. We'd also like to thank the opportunity to our change maker sponsors. BAFTA say they are delighted to support CMC's Change Maker Strand. It resonates with the international program of events and initiatives that support and develop new talent and offers the change makers unique access to some of the world's most inspiring people working in the industry. So Heather Lacey's experiences of disability led her to study English MRES degree focus on the depiction of disability and the body difference in contemporary literature. Much of her free time is spent campaigning for inclusivity and diversity. Would you give yourself a big round of applause for Heather, please?
Hi everyone. Diversity. I'm sure you're all aware it's quite a buzzword right now. I work in legal services actually, and I know there's a lot of regulations and laws that come into place to ensure that we maintain diversity either within the workforce or when we're creating content, etc. But really, why should you care about it as media professionals? And what's in it for you? So, the story I often tell at events like this is one of my experiences as an undergraduate studying English literature. I've always been an avid reader, and a degree that entailed a lot of reading seemed right up my street. I found books fascinating. It was the way that narratives were so carefully crafted and interwoven that enthralled me. The way such subtle nuances of the human experience could be portrayed through words alone. I took a really popular module whilst in my second year called Classics of British Children's Literature, which is pretty apt considering we're at the Children's Media Conference. I was expecting this, probably naively, to be a nostalgic trip down memory lane, but instead it completely changed the course of my studies and my outlook. We were asked to read, amongst other titles, The Secret Garden. Now I'm sure many of you have come across Hodgson Burnett's book, and there's also been film adaptations. It's quite a popular story. But I'll be honest, I've never really read it before as a child. And I sat in the newly refurbished reading room of the library, and I came across some of the following quotes, some of which included, "He is a hunchback, and it is horrid." And you can also see a few others there, so talking about the deformed, crippled creature, and how if being a hunchback like him, it had better die. Now, something that's quite important and integral to this story is that I was diagnosed with something called Scheuermann's kyphosis when I turned 13, and I remember the words that came from the consultant's mouth at that time. He said to me, "You have vertebral deformity, a hunchback if you will." This condition, along with my pre-existing cerebral palsy, I have hemiplegia, which affects the right side of my body, came like a real blow to me. So when I was sat reading this book in a library, I got that sinking feeling. My cheeks flushed red and I felt a shame emanate from the pit of my stomach. I recalled days stood in front of a full-length mirror, trying to desperately straighten my back, to no avail. For a time, and especially as a young adult growing up, I hated the way my back looked. And amongst pages of words, seemingly inconspicuous, those ones really hurt. What was even worse about this, in my opinion, is that when I came to discuss the concerns in the seminar that week, no one really batted an eyelid, didn't really seem to care. And whilst I accept that the book was written for early 20th century readers, I found it hard to accept that my concerns were not being addressed by my lecturer in the 21st century seminar classroom. They say that there is no friend as loyal as a book. But right there and then, I felt betrayed by one of the things I loved the most. I'd worked for a long time to try and reach a comfortable, happy place, and to accept my body's differences. but these words spoke to that internalised ableism I'd carried around with me for years. Something many disabled people know too much about. I began to make it a mission of mine after that seminar to search out for more accurate representations of people like me. I wanted to find characters in pages and on stages and screens that had disabilities and lived their lives in either ordinary or extraordinary ways. Maybe they were embroiled in a dramatic family saga, or maybe they went on fantastic adventures, or maybe they just simply got up and lived their everyday life. I wanted to find portrayals that negated the usual trope of the tragic disabled character. We all know, though, that media is one of the most powerful forces in the world. And I'm sure most of you are here today because you are creative people with grand ideas and you have a view of changing the world and making an impact in it, no matter how small. You strive to create a world of fun, education and interest for children and young people. And just from my perspective, I have to tell you that seeing a reflection of yourself, your true unadulterated self, captured through written word or lit up on television screens, is so incredibly validating. It paints a picture and it conveys a message. It tells you that your life and experiences matter, that you are worthy, that you are valid. Nothing quite beats that. So you can imagine my elation during my MRes degree when I was trying to find these more authentic representations. I stumbled upon the book Grace Williams Say It Loud by Emma Henderson. This is a contemporary piece of literature. And Grace, the protagonist, actually had the same type of cerebral palsy as I do, and the spinal curvature to boot. And I got that validation from that portrayal. Behind the screens and behind the scenes, where ideas are conceived and conceptualised, is a perfect place to start making these changes. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have first-hand experience of a lived experience to portray it accurately, but nothing quite beats that first-hand insight and knowledge. When you employ a disabled person within the media, or when you consult them in terms of ascertaining authenticity, or what is and isn't acceptable, you are unlocking a plethora of knowledge. And no doubt when you transfer and translate that experience into whatever you're creating, you are validating their own lived experience and the lived experience of many individuals. Now is as good a time as any to make these truly positive changes. Diversity and the way we're measured in diversity is not going to go away anytime soon. You can really, truly shape the perceptions and enrich the lives and minds of young children and people. I always longed for characters to be like me, but they never quite materialised, not when I needed them most. However, organisations like Inclusive Minds, of which I am an inclusion ambassador, offer authors, publishers, agents and other creatives the opportunity to find out more about the lived experiences of underrepresented individuals. Such as those who identify as LGBTQ+, those with black and ethnic minority groups, and disabled people like myself. I know your work is devoted to making children and young people's lives richer by whatever means possible, but you truly have the ability to enact real, meaningful change. We are here, and you can help to make our voices heard. We don't have to be silent any longer. What I want to ask of you is this: media, what are you waiting for?
Thank you, Hannah, for sharing your journey and your insights. So first, next I'd like to introduce Nathan. So Nathan began his career in theatre in 2006, toured nationally and internationally with a variety of dance theatre productions. He has worked within disability arts for over 15 years and was appointed the artistic director of the 2017 Special Olympics opening ceremony. For the last 5 years, Nathan has been investigating the unlikely link between hip-hop and visual impairment, and has developed the rational method of audio description, which utilizes sound effects as a beatboxer. Sound effects are beatboxer to provide a richer soundscape to visually impaired audiences. Big round of applause to Nathan, please.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Y'all feeling good? Yeah? Come on, wake it up. Y'all feeling good? Yeah. We're gonna need a sound check in here. When I say make some, you say noise. Make some. Noise. Make some. Noise. When I say children's, you say conference. Children. Conference. Children. Conference. With the media in the middle. Oh. Okay, so my name's Nathan, and I guess the best way to describe what I do these days is I'm an accessibility innovator. Now, when you think of hip-hop and visual impairment, you don't really seem to put them in the same sentence. Hardly ever, really. But the more my company investigated into this phenomenon, the more an unlikely link seemed to emerge. And it started when we worked with the Partially Sighted Society of Doncaster. And we asked them, why is it that a lot of people with visual impairment don't go to the theatre or don't go to the cinema and things? And they said to us, well, it's because we can't see the action. So I was like, okay, so what do you guys need to be able to see the action? And I was like, well, we need movement to change dynamic quite abruptly, from like wide to narrow, from high to low, quite quick. I was like, okay, yeah. Then I started thinking, well, breakdancing does that, or b-boying as the correct term is known, but so do a lot of other art forms. And then they said a lot of people with visual impairment, obviously it depends on the visual impairment, but a lot of them see better when they look down towards the floor. And I got to think, well, where does most breakdancing happen? On the floor. And then we started to work with a visually impaired playwright called Kate O'Reilly. And Kate, she sees in 2D, so everything's like a flat picture to her. But she said when she watched my company breakdance live, she got an experience of what it's like seeing 3D. And she never had that with any other art form before. She said, for example, when she watched ballet or contemporary, it was nice, but it was just like that of a flat, pretty picture. So based on this, I'm now partnered with a neuroscientist at the University of York, and next year we're going to be doing fMRI scans on people with visual impairment for when they watch ballet, contemporary and breakdance, but also just in terms of just general movements. Because what we want these findings to do is to inform like directors, producers, choreographers on a national, international scale of, okay, what is accessible movement that you can put into your, for example, children's television outputs, when you're choreographing movement and things. Another thing, what we discovered was they said that a lot of people that have visual impairment don't really engage that much with conventional audio description. Because I don't know if you guys have heard conventional audio description, it can be quite, well, it's supposed to be neutral, but it can be quite like the dancer lifts their arm, turns their head to the side. It can be quite like mundane and boring. So this was pretty worrying, seeing as there's, over 2 million people in this country right now that are visually impaired, and that number by 2050 is going to rise to over 4 million people, so it's on the increase. And so if there's an access provision that is there, but a lot of those people aren't taking up on that access, something needs to be done about that. So again, what I did was I asked them, well, why is this? And they was like, well, we just don't really find it engaging enough. So then I got to thinking, okay, so what can I do in terms of looking into hip-hop to make it more accessible? And then I started thinking, okay, well, what are the most audible forms of hip-hop? You have rap, and you have beatboxing. And then so I decided to do some research to look into how beatboxing can give a richer soundscape to people with visual impairment. And basically it works a bit like, like Foley sound effects with a film and things. But it's for actual like physical human movement as opposed to, a car sound. So if you have, for example, a children's television program and there's a car that's audio described, you'd obviously have the sound of a car. But what would you have for physical movement? What would you have for a human being moving? And this is where the beatboxing sound effects come in. So we use human sounds to describe human movement. Okay, and so for example, it might be Timmy slices the air with his hands. And within doing that, you get an idea of the speed, angle, and trajectory of the movement. And the other great thing about that is, with audio description, it's linear. So whether we like it or not, you can only describe a certain amount of movement in a short space of time. That's why a lot of audio description is really fast, you can't read what's happening. Yeah? But with the sound effects that beatbox can provide, you can eradicate that because you can have things happening in real time, and this opens up a lot of opportunities for live, for live broadcasting. So for example, if you have a children's program that's live, you can have something that can be audio described in real time. Yeah. So also with this, what makes our methodology unique is we created our own language. I guess a bit similar to like Laban notation. And how we did that was we got people with vision impairment and a lot of children with vision impairment to actually physicalize each sound effect the beatboxer makes. And so by doing this, if you have the majority of people all say, okay, so what does this sound like? And for the majority of people saying, oh, that's a jump, or they're all jumping, then that's always the sound effect we use to describe a jump. If the majority of people are saying, okay, it's a spin, then that will be the sound effect we always use for a spin. So what we've done is developed, an intuitive language for like young people with visual impairment to be able to tap into it at a very early age with minimal work and effort needed for them in order to enhance accessibility. So in terms of that, what we've also done is, using this methodology, we've also used it to create, to help choreograph movement. So for example, when I work with a lot of people with visual impairment, again, apparently there's no visual impaired breakdancers. Who'd have thought, right? So I was like, okay, well, if there's no visual impaired breakers, we're going to make some. But the reason for me doing that could not be just because I wanted to have some people who can't see breakdance in a show. I was like, okay, so what's breaking done for me? So I was like, okay, well, it's improved my spatial awareness, and it's been a great means of injury prevention for me. And a lot of people with visual impairment, they fall and get injured. What's breaking? It's just falling with style. Yeah. So what we've done is we've got we teach people how to sustain their momentum when they're falling, rather than literally just stopping it dead. Because when you stop a movement dead, that's when all the force jolts into that part of your body, and that's where the injuries occur. But if you can curve your body, learn to dissipate the momentum through your movement, then the injuries are much less likely to occur and happen. And we piloted this about 3 years ago with a bunch of kids. And from doing this, within 2 sessions, we had kids upside down doing handstands, doing front somersaults into foam pits and things. And some of those kids went on to do curtain raises for the actual productions, and some of them even went on to be fully integrated into the mainstream breakdance classes that were happening. And the sighted kids didn't realise that those kids were visually impaired based on their movement. So in terms of social change, that was massive. And so what my company have done is we've now rolled this out on like a national level. We're going to be working with the Royal Opera House later on this year, in conjunction with their Monday Moves class, where they teach ballet to people with visual impairment. So we're going to be teaching the elements of hip-hop and breaking to people with visual impairment. The great thing about this is it works for all ages. So even like from small kids right up to like I teach a group in Ipswich, Unson, Suffolk, and their average age is 55 years old. And I teach them the basics of breaking. But I use the methodology of audio description in order to do that. And so, for example, when I can show them, I might say to them, okay, you're going to slide to that, and I go. So they now have an idea how long they need to slide for and when it needs to stop. And within doing this, it's really improved their movement quality and understanding and communication of, okay, so that's the physical movement that we have to do for now. So it's a great means of communication. So I guess what I'm really saying to you guys is find innovative ways, to literally think outside of the box. A lot of you may be thinking, okay, well, maybe budget may be an issue. It's not. There's a lot of people that are willing to work with you guys from its inception. If you can work from the inception of something and have access at the forefront of that, it makes for a much more accessible production and enjoyable production for everybody, not just for somebody who has a disability. So, yeah, it's super important also to remember that audio description and any form of access is just as important as the actors, just as important as the set design, just as important as the director, because it's a part of the production. So it makes no sense to bring that in right at the very end, because if you do that, you're not giving the audio description a chance to breathe. And the problem you get is people talking really, really fast in between text. And people think, what was that? I didn't quite understand what was said. So but if you talk with, if you talk with developers right from the beginning, then you can think about, okay, well, in terms of access, maybe I need to leave a little bit of a longer pause here to get the movement described here, or we can talk about different aesthetics. So my company, one of our elements is we specialise in beatboxing for audio description, but we also specialise in subjective text, and another service we offer is poetic text. And because what we feel is everybody's different, so we should have choice, we should have variety. With access, it's not a case of one shoe fits all. So somebody, for example, may like to listen to conventional audio description. That's fine. Somebody may like to listen to beatboxing content. That's fine. Somebody may like to listen to poetic content or whatever other content it is. It's fine. But it'd be great to give people the choice to just flick through. Like, for example, they're watching one program, they could flick through option 1 being conventional audio description, option 2 being the rationale method, option 5 being Timmy's method, whoever's method. But it'd be great just to give people that variety and choice, and you'll find that people's imaginations will get stimulated in much more richer ways. Thank you.
Thank you for the insight into his original work. Next we have Joe Catchpot. He's a visual artist and technical producer. So he began his career in the 1990s in Sheffield. He's worked and performed internationally as far as Mongolia, Lebanon, concert halls, festivals, galleries, nightclubs and commercial events. His expertise spans from high-end projection mapping installations to community engagement projects. And most recently, he has been prototyping dynamic captioning, which utilizes motion capture to allow for a more interactive approach with captioning for hearing impaired audiences. So give it up for Joe.
Hello everybody. So I've been working with Nathan for the last 6 months, I think, and I've been working mostly with interpreting music for the last maybe 20 years of my career as a VJ, and I improvise and I create animations and real-time interactive visuals. So taking those skills to use with Nathan, with subtitling and interactive text animations to make theatre and performances more accessible to visually impaired audiences and those with hearing impairment as well. I'll show you a video. So I've got a collection of things I've made using the Microsoft Kinect over the last 5 years. And so there's sound reactive elements, and you'll see a selection here, and I'll try and talk over it a little. So yeah, some quite hardcore dance music events I work at, and this dubstep was maybe the first thing I made 5 years ago, 2013. There we go. This is one of my more recent things, and it's the first one I've used actually controlling audio to represent the character. So hopefully this is like kind of ice or glass person. Here's more of a liquid style effect. And all of these are real-time, can be used on stage, and they could, if it was working with a dancer, we could use a voile screen, a mesh screen, transparent in front of the dancer, so you could dance with yourself, or you could dance with a pre-recorded character, or for instance with this one, just those ribbons could be visible. Maybe with this one, just the particles. So yeah, the Microsoft Kinect gives you the coordinates and the positions of a single character or multiple characters on the stage, and then you can assign whatever visual effect to those coordinates. Moving on to these more recent examples where I've actually managed to interpret the rotations of the joint positions. and this one I made on Monday.
I think what's really good to point about this is like in terms of how this could be an interactive media platform, for example, children's television programs, is you could have something set up where the children could actually be their favourite character. You know, so through motion capture, you know, they could literally have their favourite character set up, you know, as an avatar, and then they can actually move around, and then all of a sudden they're embodying, you know, their favorite you know, children's television characters. So that's, you know, just one small way in terms of using motion capture to be interactive with your audiences as an extension from the program that you're working on.
These quite rough and ready prototypes, really, but I think that would maybe in the rough and readiness could be inspiring to children. They can design their own characters quite quickly and build 3D models. There's some really easy to use 3D modelling software these days. We can then just give them control of their own character. It's easily producible. And so the next video is really about captioning, and it's interactive captioning. And I'll just play the video, and it's silent, which should give you an idea of how it might be if you were hearing impaired. It's quite self-explanatory. If this was used on the transparent voile screen in front of the stage, we would not necessarily have the humanoid person there or the buttons. You would just have the text, and then you would see the actor behind the screen. The actor would have a visual monitor, comfort monitor at the front of the stage, so they would see the buttons, but the audience would see those control mechanisms.
Yeah, so what's great about dynamic captioning is it gives a much more, I guess, sensitive and intimate relationship between the performer and the captioning. You know, so in terms of making sure that the timing is completely right, so sometimes you have captioning issues where the captions appear either before or after the words being said, or the timing is slightly off. Whereas here, the captions are controlled by the performer in terms of their gesticulation. So as long as they remember just to gesticulate at a certain point in time, or through the air, then the captions can be, you know, fit exactly what they're saying at any point. As you can see, you can actually pick up the captions, move them to different places in space. So all that is, you know, is perfectly possible as well with it. As a direct response for somebody who was hearing impaired, they said that they want something to happen with, you know, the noise captions. So, for example, you know, the vibrating sound. They say it's a bit bland. So, you know, you could do simple things like, okay, a vibrating sound. So you'd have that word, and all of a sudden the word starts to shake and vibrate. So it starts to take on the physical attributes of what that sound could be like. So, for example, plate smashes. You know, you could have that word, and all of a sudden that word starts to break up and smash like a plate as well. So again, it just adds an extra layer of creativity to the young person when they're watching the content, really.
Yeah, so it's a little bit visually dry this, but we could have visual effects assigned and work in real time to sound. So the sound actually, physically, a plate smashes on stage, a microphone picks up that sound and smashes the text object on screen as well. So there's one thing.
You can really start to think about getting access as early on into the production process as possible, then again, we can make some great things happen.
Another further thing, just about the technology, this is off-the-shelf technology. You can go and buy a Microsoft Kinect second-hand for £10 now. Traditional, or modern motion capture studios charge £5,000 a day. This is very cost-effective and perfect for the live environment rather than the production environment. Street. I think that's all from us on that subject, so thank you very much.
Next, we have Rebecca. She's Director of Toy Like Me, an arts and play-based not-for-profit. She specializes in the representation of disability in children's industries. She has vast experience, 20 years in TV, print journalism, online content and script writing. For the BBC, she has worked as a producer and writer on a range of factual and children's programs, Live and Kicking, Electric Circus, and Get Your Own Back. She's produced soaps, TV, music websites for the BBC Online. Toy Like Me have been viral a number of times. So let's hear from Rebecca on what it's like firsthand of her experience of accessibility from somebody who is visually and hearing impaired. Let's give it up for Rebecca.
I just want to start by saying it's kind of disappointing. It's the elephant in the room that there aren't that many people in here, which for me is a real shame, because I think what these guys are bringing to the table is really interesting in terms of opening your mind and thinking outside of the box in terms of creativity. And it saddens me a little bit to think more people who are outside might have seen this stuff and thought, oh, accessibility, how boring, disability, it is not relevant to me. And actually I hope that you guys can take on this session some perspectives on things not being just about sticking some subtitles on the end and thinking about it in the creative process from the beginning and actually allowing that to take you to different creative places that you might not otherwise reach. And in children's media, we're all trying to reinvent the wheel and find the next exciting way of doing things. And I think actually there's an awful lot to learn from these guys in their approach. So I just, I just wanted to say thank you very much for bringing all that interesting content for us to see and experience. So I run an organisation called Toy Like Me, and I'm going to be talking about related things to this, which is how you can reach those untapped creative spaces. Can you talk me away from it? Is it too close? Closer? Oh, okay. Right. How you can think outside of the box to reach those untapped creative spaces, to reach those places that nobody's been through before in children's media. Maybe we've been frightened about how to approach this area, maybe we've seen it as not relevant to us, but there's actually 150 million disabled children in the world, and there's obviously at least that in terms of parents of those children who are seeking out content that's relevant or accessible to them. So actually it's more relevant than we think it is. I'm partially sighted, so I'm trying to deal with two screens. So one I can see down here, and one I can't hear, and a button, so bear with me. So I'm a writer and a creative and a founder of Toy Like Me, which is an arts and play-based not-for-profit. I've got background in TV, rather broad background, TV, online, print journalism. I've kind of done it all over the last 25 years. And the common thread has always been disability and how these industries handle disability, representation, and to a lesser extent access in terms of subtitling and that sort of thing. So I've got an unusual vantage point on all of this, in that I was born partially deaf and with full sight, and over the course of the last 20 years I've lost a lot of my sight. I'm registered blind. Sitting down there is my guide dog, Ruby, who you will meet to see at the end. So I've got multiple vantage points on accessibility and also on the world. So I described it this morning as this alien territory of vision of, I've kind of gone into that alien world and now I'm reporting back from what it's like in there. And actually it's quite fascinating because it teaches you so much creatively about how you can see the world differently. So there's a picture of me being small, and then there's, on the right hand side is a picture of how I see now. So I've got tunnel vision, I can't see around the outside, but I can see in the centre to read normal print, watch the TV, that sort of thing. So we've talked a lot about accessibility and usually that means how do we make something accessible to a person? That might mean putting a ramp outside a building, or subtitling, or audio description. A couple of examples of poor access that I've had recently as an individual person was on-demand subtitles on the TV. I have to watch everything when it's scheduled because I'm partially deaf and I'm partially sighted. I need the subtitles, but when the TV shows are transmitted, they transmit the subtitles fractionally larger. They are on a black background with white or yellow text. The contrast is very high. When it's on demand, on catch-up, so on an ITV player, it's on a slightly transparent background and more like foreign language films. And if that goes over from the wrong colour in the image, it's gone. So my favourite TV show, I confess this, is Coronation Street. And I have to watch it at 7:30 when it's on. I have to kick my kids out of the room if they know it's my show now. I have to watch it. Why can't you watch it on catch-up? Because I can't access it on catch-up. Is that me? Okay, me turn, okay. So, that's access. Inclusion is a broader term for me that means attitudinal access. So, how open-minded we are to do things differently. And, you know, I congratulate everyone who stepped into this room, because they stepped into this room perhaps not thinking this is relevant to them, but they've opened their mind to say, okay, I'll come in and see what that's about. And you guys will leave with a richer understanding and maybe more creative possibilities about what you might be able to do in your productions or whatever, from having been prepared to open your mind and think outside of the box and be in here. My work is sort of thinking about whether or not access can, thinking about the creative process differently, whether, like I said earlier, you can find something new, find those untapped creative spaces, because we're all inventing the wheel all the time, reinventing the wheel all the time, to bring something new to the table for everybody. And I've got 2 hearing children, and I know that they have to have the subtitles on in my house, but they would enjoy Joe and Nathan's subtitles far more, because there's something in it for them as well as for the hearing impaired person that needs the subtitles. So, just going to talk a little bit about Toy Like Me and design and approaching things differently. So 3 years ago, I noticed a very, very different representation of disability in the toy box. And I went online and I looked to see, you know, disabled toys. Where are they? What form do they exist in? And this is some of what I found. So this is an image here of a few products which have existed for a while. And so when I typed in disability into Google, disabled toys, this is what I got. And we need to ask ourselves, what is this communicating to children? This is layering on a narrative about disability to our kids, that it's the preserve of old people, or that it's broken leg on the football pitch and a short stay in hospital, that it's grandparents, that it's being pushed by somebody else. And I thought about what is missing here. These are all stereotypes. You might wonder why the guide dog guy is a stereotype, because he's got dark glasses on, and most blind people don't wear big wraparound glasses anymore. That's a hangover from a time when disabled people were expected to hide their, or were squinty eyes from the able-bodied community who found them a bit uncomfortable. But so these are all stereotypes. They're lacking in any colour. All the wheelchairs are grey. They're lacking in the fun and creativity that we get in children's industries, mainstream children's industries. They're lacking empowerment for these disabled children. You know, these are images of people being pushed. They're disempowered by that. Some people do need pushing, but there are lots of people who don't, and also just a collective narrative. So I wanted to think about how we handle this differently. So I began to think about how I take existing toy brands and how we can handle them in the creative process to make it seamless and to make it more attractive. So we've got those grey images, and I'm thinking, okay, how do we change that? How do we handle that? And this is uncharted territory. These are new creative waters. So I was like, oh, this is really exciting. Nobody's put a pink hearing aid on a Tinkerbell report. So this image here is of my daughter's Tinkerbell, so I snuck in her room and took pictures asleep. Got some Fino and created this cochlear implant hearing aid. I put this image online and it went viral in seconds because parents of disabled children or deaf children were saying, look at this, where can I buy it, where can I buy it, where can I buy it? And it resonated with them because it was very new for them. It's a very simple idea. So I was thinking about how I can integrate the disability aid into the character. The fairies don't exist in real life, and maybe pink cochlear implants don't exist in real life. But childhood is about imagination and possibilities, and why can't those two things collide? Why do we just have to have a medical grade wheelchair? So I started to produce more and more of these images to try to think about how we handle disability in design and in toys in the children's industry. So I got an Arts Council grant and create 12 images where we took mainstream toys and then we made them over to give them disability. So we took these images and they're currently touring around NHS hospitals, children's wards for 5 years. We wanted to show a child that when they come into hospital and have their leg amputated, that there's a beautiful Barbie doll with a prosthetic limb. It's not grey, it's not being pushed, it's about empowerment. And so this is the focus of this project. So I'm just going to go through some of these images for you. So we've got an Incredible Hulk with a diabetic line. And then there's a Lego minifigure there with a wheelchair. Now that wheelchair does exist in the Lego toy box for real, but it's grey. 8 out of 12 toy wheelchairs are grey. We need to ask ourselves why, and what we're collectively telling children about themselves as disabled children, and also what are we saying to those children's peers about being disabled. So we've got images of stormtroopers with blades, so we've amputated their legs and put little blades on them to see how that looks. And actually it looks quite natural. Spider-Man there, got very discreet different, but he's got limb difference, he's got one arm missing. And then we've got the Frozen character, so Elsa with limb difference, and Olaf with a cochlear implant. And then we've got Kristoff with a little tiny scar on his hair lip, which isn't a disability, but for some children, you know, that's a really big thing in their life. If they're carrying this scar, that people are, what was that? What, you know, why have you got that? Then we've got Anna with a track tube. And then on to Barbie with vitiligo. And another Barbie with limb difference. She's got a teeny tattoo that says "Toy Like Me" on it, which you can't quite see. And then there's the Barbie again, and deaf Barbie and Ken wedding. And Ken has got a little pink hearing aid, and Barbie is signing "I love you" in that image. So that is the collection of photos which we are now taking into schools to discuss diversity in children, and we find that they are incredibly responsive to these images. So the title of this session here is Accessibility, What's Next? Right, so what next? I spent 25 years working in industry, going to sessions like this, where we sit around and we talk about what to do. At some point, we have to walk the walk and not talk the talk. And say, okay, we're actually going to do something about this. We can sit and chat about it, but really we need to actually do something about it for 150 million disabled children worldwide, because there's millions of them, not just 2 or 3 or 4. So I have taken it upon myself to start developing an animation premise with McKinnon and Saunders, who most of you will have heard of, but if you haven't, they make Pokemon Cat and Ra and the Noisy Lion, to invent a brand which celebrates disability, explores disability in a playful, fun way. So this is just a my mood board, because I didn't want to actually, it's under development and I didn't want to completely unwrap it by showing you images from the actual show, so I brought you some of the flavour of what it is. So at the moment the working title is Mixmup, and it's a preschool animation about 3 little friends, their assistant pets, and a magical mixable fancy dress box. It's full of fun and irreverence of childhood and fancy dress, but it also gently navigates the complexities of growing up with a disability, because I'm interested in telling stories from the child's perspective, not about disabled children, but with some of the, what I call like the best kept secrets that people don't actually know about, and they're positive things about living in the disabled world. So that's, for me, personally, what's next, and I'm hoping that that's will be able to continue to be developed and eventually to something tangible, we can start walking rather than talk. But that is it for me, so thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was really insightful.
Okay, so
Just got a quick short video to show you. Okay, so the audience, hands up if you understood that. So for those that don't, imagine if the majority of TV, film, media that we consume online, this is what you don't understand. How would that make you feel? How would that make your children feel? There's a second video, but we're really short on time, so we're going to go straight into the panel discussions.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a consultant, trainer and digital sign language interpreter, and I'd really like to thank Nathan for inviting me to send this video along so I can be with you today. Unfortunately, I can't be there in person. I would have loved to have been to see what all the chat's about. So, Children's Media Conference. What's accessibility got to do with you? First of all, I'd like to give you a couple of facts. 90% of deaf children are born to hearing parents. So they're people who haven't had any experience of bringing up a deaf child, no experience of the deaf community before. They're often encouraged by the medical profession to want to fix their child. So they may not be encouraged to use sign language, which is a bit of a shame, because if they're not encouraged to use sign language, how are they going to access any language at all? Imagine